From left, Bob Bland, Linda Sarsour, Carmen Perez and Tamika Mallory, organizers of the Women's March in January, in Washington last month protesting gun violence. Jonathan Ernst Reuters. A mere half-year ago, before collusion and Comey, before Mika's face and Muslim bans and the mooch, there was a shining moment where millions of Americans flooded the streets in cities across the country to register their rage that an unapologetic misogynist had just been made leader of the free world. Donald Trump's election was a watershed moment. Even those like me, who had previously pulled levers for candidates of both parties, felt that Mr. Trump had not only violated all sense of common decency, but, alarmingly, that he seemed to have no idea that there even existed such an unspoken code of civility and dignity. Now was the time to build a broad coalition to resist the genital grabber with the nuclear codes. The Women's March moved me. Okay, so Madonna and Ashley Judd said some nutty things. But every movement has its successes, I reasoned. Mr. Trump had campaigned on attacking the weakest and most vulnerable in our society. Now was the time to put aside petty differences and secondary issues to oppose his presidency. That's certainly what the leaders of the Democratic Party, who applauded the march, told us. Senator Charles Schumer called the protest part of the grand American tradition. The House Democratic leader, Nancy Pelosi, offered her congratulations to the march's courageous organizers, and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand gushed about them in Time, where they were among the top 100 most influential people of 2017. The Women's March was the most inspiring and transformational moment I've ever witnessed in politics, she wrote. And it happened because four extraordinary women, Tamika Mallory, Bob Bland, Carmen Perez and Linda Sarsour, had the courage to take on something big, important and urgent, and never gave up. The image of this fearsome foursome, echoed in more than a few flattering profiles, was as seductive as a Benetton ad. There was Tamika Mallory, a young black activist who was crowned the Sojourner Truth of Our Time by Jet magazine and a Leader of Tomorrow by Valerie Jarrett. Carmen Perez, a Mexican-American and a veteran political organizer, was named one of Fortune's top 50 world leaders. Linda Sarsour, a hijab-wearing Palestinian-American and the former head of the Arab American Association of New York, had been recognized as a champion of change by the Obama White House. And Bob Bland, the fashion designer behind the Nasty Women t-shirts, was the white mother who came up with the idea of the march in the first place. What wasn't to like? A lot, as it turns out. The leaders of the Women's March, arguably the most prominent feminists in the country, have some chilling ideas and associations. Far from erecting the big tent so many had hoped for, the movement they lead has embraced decidedly illiberal causes and cultivated a radical tenor that seems determined to alienate all but the most woke. Start with Ms. Sarsour, by far the most visible of the quartet of organizers. It turns out that this homegirl in a hijab, as one of many articles about her put it, has a history of disturbing views, as advertised by Linda Sarsour. There are comments on her Twitter feed of the anti-Zionist sort. Nothing is creepier than Zionism, she wrote in 2012. And, oddly, given her status as a major feminist organizer, there are more than a few that seem to make common cause with anti-feminists, like this from 2015. You'll know when you're living under Sharia law if suddenly all your loans and credit cards become interest-free. Sound nice, doesn't it? She has dismissed the anti-Islamist feminist Ayaan Hirsi Ali in the most crude and cruel terms, insisting she is not a real woman and confessing that she wishes she could take away Ms. Ali's vagina. This about a woman who suffered genital mutilation as a girl in Somalia. Ms. Sarsour and her defenders have dismissed all of this as a smear campaign coordinated by the far right and motivated by Islamophobia. Plus, they've argued, many of these tweets were written 5 years ago, ancient history. But just last month, Ms. Sarsour proved that her past is prologue. On July 16, the official Twitter feed of the Women's March offered warm wishes to Assata Shakur. Happy birthday to the revolutionary Assata Shakur. Read the tweet, which featured a sign of resistance. In Assata's honor, a pink and purple pop art style portrait of Ms. Shakur, better known as Joanne Chesimard, a convicted killer who is on the FBI's list of most wanted terrorists. Like many others, CNN's Jake Tapper noticed the outrageous tweet. Shakur is a cop killer fugitive in Cuba, he tweeted, going on to mention Ms. Sarsour's troubling past statements. Any progressives out there condemning this, he asked. In the face of this sober criticism, Ms. Sarsour cried bully at Jake Tapper joins the ranks of the alt-right to target me online. Welcome to the party. There's no doubt that Ms. Sarsour is a regular target of far-right groups, but her experience of that onslaught is what makes her smear all the more troubling. Indeed, the idea that Jake Tapper is a member of the alt-right is the kind of delirious, fact-free madness that fuels Donald Trump and his supporters. Troublingly, it is exactly the sentiment echoed by the Women's March. Our power, your power, scares the far-right. They continue to try to divide us. Today's attacks on Assata Shakur are the latest example. Since when did criticizing a domestic terrorist become a signal issue of the far right? Last I checked, that position was a matter of basic decency and patriotism. What's more distressing is that Ms. Sarsour is not the only leader of the women's movement who harbors such alarming ideas. Largely overlooked have been the similarly outrageous statements of the march's other organizers. Ms. Mallory, in addition to applauding Assata Shakur as a feminist emblem, also admires Fidel Castro, who sheltered Ms. Shakur in Cuba. She put up a flurry of posts when Mr. Castro died last year. R.I.P. Comandante, your legacy lives on, she wrote in one. She does not have similar respect for American police officers. When you throw a brick in a pile of hogs, the one that hollers is the one you hit, she posted on November 20. Ms. Perez also expressed her admiration for a Black Panther convicted of trying to kill 6 police officers. Love learning from and sharing space with Baba Sokoa Odinga, but the public figure both women regularly fawn over is Louis Farrakhan. On May 11, Ms. Mallory posted a photo with her arm around Mr. Farrakhan, the 84-year-old Nation of Islam leader notorious for his anti-Semitic comments, on Twitter and Instagram. Thank God this man is still alive and doing well, she wrote. It is one of several videos and photos and quotes that Ms. Mallory has posted of Mr. Farrakhan. Ms. Perez is also a big fan. In the fall, she posted a photo in which she holds hands with Mr. Farrakhan, writing, "There are many times when I sit with elders or inspirational individuals where I think, I just wish I could package this and share this moment with others." SHE's also promoted video of Mr. Farrakhan dropping knowledge and another in which he says he is speaking truth to power. What is Mr. Farrakhan's truth? Readers born after 1980 will probably have little idea, since he has largely remained out of the headlines since the Million Man March he organized in 1995. But his views, which this editorial page has called twisted, remain as appalling as ever. And don't you forget, when it's God who puts you in the ovens, it's forever, he warned Jews in a speech at a Nation of Islam gathering in Madison Square Garden in 1985. 5 years later, he remained unreformed. The Jews, a small handful, controlled the movement of this great nation, like a radar controls the movement of a great ship in the waters. Or this metaphor, directed at Jews: you have wrapped your tentacles around the US government, and you're deceiving and sending this nation to hell. He called Hitler a very great man on national television. Judaism, he insists, is a gutter religion. In one of the several widely available YouTube videos HES made about the Jews, he told black Americans that the control of the synagogue of Satan over our people must be exposed. He adds these satanic ones have not only controlled hip-hop, but they control, according to their own words, the very messages that are brought to the public. He goes on to offer a truly remarkable analysis of the hip-hop industry, in which intelligent rappers are rejected by the satanic minds who insist that they want filth and encourage vulgarity and savagery. This is the first 10 minutes of an hour. Mr. Farrakhan is also an unapologetic racist. He insists that whites are a race of devils and that white people deserve to die. Feminists will find little to cheer in his 1950s views of gender. Your professional lives can't satisfy your soul like a good, loving man. Recently he told Jays that he should make Beyoncé put on some clothes. He also opposes gay marriage. If that wasn't enough of a rap sheet, Mr. Farrakhan also loves Scientology and believes 9/11 was a false flag operation. I can already hear the pushback. What's a few impolitic tweets and photos compared to the horror show of this administration? Save your outrage for the transgender ban in the military, for the lies that spew forth daily from the press briefing room, for the cuts to Planned Parenthood, the shady business with Russia, and. But the nightmare of the Trump administration is the proof text for why all of this matters. We just saw what happens to legitimate political parties when they fall prey to movements that are, at base, anti-American. That is true of the populist, racist alt-right that helped deliver Mr. Trump the White House and are now hollowing out the Republican Party. And it can be true of the progressive resistance, regardless of how chic, Instagrammable and celebrity-laden the movement may seem. Recall that only a few months ago, Keith Ellison, a man with a long history of defending and working with anti-Semites, was almost made leader of the Democratic National Committee. Will progressives have more spine than conservatives in policing hate in the ranks, or will they ignore it in their fury over the Trump administration? I am sure that Linda Sarsour, and perhaps the other leaders of the Women's March, will block me for writing this. Maybe I'll be accused of siding with the alt-right as Islamophobic. But what I stand against is embracing terrorists, disdaining independent feminist voices, hating on democracies and celebrating dictatorships. If that puts me beyond the pale of the progressive feminist movement in America right now, so be it.